It's another week, which means it's time for another episode of Kings This Week. Welcome back to Kings This Week. My name is Jordan Kiss, and it's going to be a very busy week for the Kings ahead. But before we can look forward to the next 7 days plus, we'll have to backtrack to a couple days to last weekend, as we'll dive right into our weekend recap. After picking up 2 wins on the road, the Kings look to carry that momentum back to home ice as they took on the Coquitlam Express for the first of 2 games on Friday. As the Express came into the weekend looking for the first win of the season, while the Kings were looking to win their first game on home ice to start the year, but it would be the Express who would get off to the early start in this game. Just 1:35 in, Cameron Moger with a point shot, the long wrister, which was deflected in by Jake Manfred to get the Express on the board early. They would extend that lead to 2, 8:34 in. Tyler Kopp with just a get me on net shot from the half wall, managed to do a sneak by Kyle Metzen, as Tyler Kopp would score his first on the year to give the Express the 2-0 lead, and they would make it 3-0 towards the end of the first period. Jake Manfred, his second of the game, after a nice spin pass by Coquitlam forward Ray Hamlin to find Manfred in the slot and one-timed it in, as the Express took the 3-0 lead into the second period. Now the Kings would get on the board about 4.5 minutes in on the power play. Max Poffin, after Jack Blanchett kept in the clearing attempt, fired it on goal. Initial save was made, but the rebound was left there for Max Poffin, who batted it in for his first game of the year, as he made his return to the lineup after missing the 2 games in Nanaimo and Alberni. The Express would have the 3-1 lead going into the third period, and they would extend that by 2 early on. At 1:12 in, Coco Armstrong, his first of the season, and then Colton Alexander at 8:32 would make it 5-1. Now the Kings would try to rally late in the third period, but at the midway point, shorthanded Anthony Yu would go in, fire a wrist shot over the shoulder of Adam Manji for his 4th goal of the season and a goal in his 4th straight game. And then at 13:35, a wild sequence here. Jack Blanchett would, on the penalty kill, Jack Blanchett would take the puck up ice. You fired Ryder Ringer, who went in on a breakaway, a diving save by Adam Manji. The puck would eventually come to Sam Schoenfeld, who thought he had an open net. But Adam Manji coming across to make the diving save once again. There would be a scramble in front. Then the puck would come to the half wall where Max Poffin was there, fresh out of the penalty box, put it on goal, banked it off the pad of Adam Manji, as the Kings would whittle down the Coquitlam lead to just 2. But that was too much for the Kings, as they will fall short 5-3 in the first game of the doubleheader against the Express. Now on Saturday, the Kings would get another shot to derail the Express as they continued to look for that elusive first home win of the season, and they get off to the most of perfect starts. Just 4:09 in, a point shot from Sam Belanger, Anthony Lucarelli right there on the doorstep with a couple chances at it on his second opportunity, bats out of midair past Adam Manji for his first of the season, and to give the Kings the 1-0 lead. But the Express would answer about 5 minutes later. Jake Manfred on what the Kings thought to be an icing. It was waved off at the last minute. Jake Manfred would eventually have the puck on a stick and just shoot it from the sideboards, and managed to sneak through the legs of Liam Vanderkoy to even the score 1 apiece through 20 minutes. Now in the first half of the second period, the Kings would dominate, but were unable to solve Adam Manji. And once we hit the media timeout, a switch just flipped on for the Coquitlam Express, as they would go on to score 3 straight goals towards the end of the second period, starting at 13:59. Coco Armstrong wide open in the slot, one time at home. At 15:56, Jason Gallucci, just the loose puck coming right to his stick, and he snapped it past Liam Vanderkoy. Then at 19:52, Emmett McHardy, after the puck was knocked free out of the glove of Liam Vanderkoy, he thought he'd cover it. McHardy there to poke it into the open net, as the Express would take a 4-1 lead into the third period, scoring 4 unanswered goals, and they would go on to score 2 more unanswered goals just 22 seconds into the third period. Gavin Giesbrecht bouncing on the loose puck there for his second of the season. Then at 6:06, Coco Armstrong picking off a pass, going into the slot and firing it home as the Express would take a 6-1 lead. Now the Kings would get one more back, 7:37. Guess who? It is Anthony Yu with his 5th of the season, assisted by Carter McNerlin and Nick Bricketta. That is now 5 straight games that Anthony Yu has scored a goal for the Kings, as they would fall 6-2 to the Coquitlam Express, as the Kings now sit 2-3-1 through the first 6 games of the regular season. Now, it's just a rare 1-game week for the Kings, but it'll kick off a very busy stretch as they'll be playing 5 games over the course of 8 days, with just one of them being on home ice, and that game will take place this Saturday as the Kings host the Alberni Valley Bulldogs to wrap up a 3-game homestand. It'll be the second meeting of the season between these two teams. Of course, it was the Kings taking the first game by a score of 5-4 in Port Alberni. Now, since that game, the Bulldogs have gone on to win their previous 2 games with home ice victories against the Cowichan Valley Capitals and the Langley Rivermen, and now sit with a record of 3-3 to start the season. But the Bulldogs will be in action on Friday night on the road in Nanaimo as they take on the Clippers before making the trek up to Powell River here on Saturday to take on the Kings, which will start at 7 o'clock here at Hap Parker Arena. If you haven't already, get your tickets at tickets.powellriverkings.com, or you can join me on the Kings Broadcast Network, BCHL TV, and MixLR for all the action from this Saturday's home game. Now, after the Kings host the Bulldogs on Saturday, they'll then hit the road for a 4-game road trip to kick off their interior conference schedule, and it will start with 2 games at the BCHL Showcase. The BCHL Showcase is one of the biggest events on the calendar for a lot of players in the league, as it's an opportunity to play games in front of NCAA and NHL scouts as representatives from each Division I school, and all 32 NHL teams will be at the Chilliwack Coliseum, as each BCHL team will play 2 regular season games over the course of 4 days. Now, the Kings Showcase will start on Tuesday as they'll take on the West Kelowna Warriors. That game will start at 1 o'clock. And then on Wednesday, the Kings will play the Salmon Arm Silverbacks for the first of 2 meetings this season, and the first time since January of 2020. And that game will start 10 o'clock on Wednesday. That is Tuesday at 1 o'clock against West Kelowna, and then Wednesday at 10 a.m. against the Salmon Arm Silverbacks. Of course, all games will be available on the Kings Broadcast Network. Now, last year, the Kings are very successful at the BCHL Showcase, going 2-0 with wins against the Wenatchee Wild and the Cranbrook Bucks. And also last year for the Kings, the Interior Conference, very kind to them, even though they just had 4 games against Interior Conference opponents, going 2-1-1 last year over those 4 games. Including a game against the West Kelowna Warriors in West K, which resulted in an OT loss for the Kings. Now, after the showcase, the Kings will make their way into the interior, all the way to the Kootenays, as they'll get set to take on the Cranbrook Bucks on Friday night, and then the Trail Smoke Eaters on Saturday. And we'll have a preview of those 2 games on next week's edition of Kings This Week. Now, if you are new to Powell River, we want to make you feel as welcome as possible and send you and your family to your first Kings game. All you have to do is go to powellriverkings.com/new-to-PR and fill out the form there that is on the website. Tell us who you are, tell us why you came out to Powell River, and tickets to your first Kings game for you and your family are on us. That is powellriverkings.com/new-to-PR. Fill out the form, and we'll give you tickets to your first Kings game. And that will conclude another edition of Kings This Week. Once again, thank you very much for joining me. We will be back next week, next Thursday, for another edition. It'll be the first ever on-the-road edition of Kings This Week, as we'll be bringing it to you from Cranbrook. Of course, the Kings hitting that long road trip next week. As on next week's episode, we'll recap this Saturday's home game, as well the 2 games at the BCHL Showcase, and then get you set for the 2 games on the road. The first ever game in Cranbrook for the Kings, as they'll take on the Bucks. Then they'll be in Trail on next Saturday. But of course, the Kings before then, 1 more game at home this Saturday against the Alberni Valley Bulldogs, a 7 o'clock puck drop. Get your tickets online at tickets.powellriverkings.com, or join me on the Kings Broadcast Network as the Kings look to beat the Bulldogs for the second time this season, as well picking up their first win here at the Hap Parker Arena in the process. Well, until next time, my name is Jordan Kiss. Go Kings, go.